Hi, welcome to Karen's Conversations number 44. And this one has been a long time in the getting of this arranged, but it's happening, which is great. So I'm talking today with Katie Jones from CultureFit HR. And we're going to talk about high-performing teams. So an interesting subject that's close to my heart too. So without ado, I'm going to throw over to Katie. Welcome and introduce yourself.
Hi Karen, thanks for having me on. So my name's Katie Jones, like you said, and I work for CultureFit HR. So I'm a culture consultant, and I started out in HR probably over 10 years ago now. I worked in HR in Sydney and in London, working for a fitness company over there, which is a global company. And then I moved home probably around a year and a half ago now. Mm-hmm. So when I moved home, I kind of was in that state like every Australian does when they go overseas and come back, and it's like, oh, did I make the right decision? And then I kind of went through like maybe I should go back over. What should I do? A bit unsure. So a company reached out to me and wanted to do a project around HR, and that's when I was like, oh, maybe I should start working for myself. Working in HR for so long and sitting on the other side where employees, weren't happy with their job or, just complaining about little things. So I was like, I really want to help fix those issues. So culture was probably the area that I really focused on and wanted to make a difference. So that's how I came up with CultureFit HR.
Awesome. And did you see a particular difference between HR in Australia and HR in London, out of curiosity?
Not really. I think, in every organisation you have the same, people are people, and you're going to have the same issues wherever you go. The only difference is obviously the legislation around HR and from country to country.
Yeah. Cool. Right, so we said we're going to talk about high-performing teams, which is obviously part of the culture of the organisation is going to influence that. So if I was to walk into an organisation, what would a high-performing team look like? How would I know one if I saw it?
Yeah, so a high-performing team, they usually are, they will share common goals, share common beliefs, values, behaviours. They're really clear on their vision. They're really comfortable with challenging each other and holding each other accountable as well.
So what are the benefits to an organisation? It's probably a 101 question, but why should organisations invest in high-performing teams?
Oh, it's a no-brainer. So a high-performing team, basically they, the benefits for that would be that the company would have a lower turnover. So generally, when you've got people that are highly engaged, motivated, achieving superior results, that attracts talent. That attracts the talent and also retains that talent as well. The other thing that it really minimises is that office politics. So, if everyone's singing on the same hymn sheet and really focused on what they've got to do, then there's no time or that you don't have that office politics and that, that office gossip that's going on usually within the organisation.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one because I was talking to someone the other day, and I won't name the organisation. It's a large organisation, and they've done this spill and fill for whatever reason, and I won't say the reason because that'll make it clear, obvious who the organisation is. And everyone's had to reapply for their jobs, and you've got peers applying for the same job, and it's the whole elbow thing's happening. This is my space, this is my pitch, I'm now in competition with you. I was your friend, if you like, yesterday, but I'm not anymore because we're in competition, and it's a very toxic environment.
Yeah, not nice to work in. Yeah,
absolutely not. No. And how much, again, it's probably a no-brainer, but how much does a high-performing team depend on the leadership that's in that team?
Yeah, I guess when they are high performing and everyone has got clarity around what they're wanting to achieve, it really they don't depend on the leader that much. Usually leadership within that team will then whoever is needed to step up at that time will step up. So yes, it's great to have someone that leads that team and can, cascade the information that comes down from management. But generally they work together. No one is really leading that team, for one given time.
That's awesome. So it's a bit like what I keep saying, leadership is everybody's role.
Yeah.
Everyone can lead. That's great. So take us on a journey. CultureFit HR are asked to come and help me build some high-performing teams. I think I need them. Well, I know I need them. But where would you start? How are you going to help me?
Yeah, so if you've got an existing team, the one things that I always ask the leader is, what has this team already been through? Have they already set some goals? Have they already set some values? Are they working towards something already? Has there been any issues in the team? Be aware of that. Some employees hold on to things for a long, long time. But if it's a new team, it's a great opportunity, especially if they're in their forming stage. And you can do it with both teams. But I usually start with a team charter, or a team pledge, however you want to call it. And that's just really getting the foundations of a team. So you get the leader to talk about the vision. So where is this team heading? So that everyone has clarity on, where the team's going. And then you get down to the team purpose. So why do we exist? Why are we here? Why do we get out of bed every day? What is this team's purpose? What are they working towards? And then you get the team to come up with their own values and behaviours, how they want to interact and how they want to treat each other. From that, you'd look at some common goals. Generally, they are cascaded down from the organisation, but having common goals that the team can all work towards means that they're all working on the same towards the same direction. And then generally I'd kind of finish the day off with something around how's his team going to communicate, what's their communication rhythm, or ways of working. So I would generally start with a workshop like that, just to lay those foundations so everyone is clear on going forward. And then I would start with a team model. So culture, as you know, it takes a while to either change or embed. So, over a 12-month period, I would probably work with a team to work through a model I use called the 5 Behaviours of a Cohesive Team by Patrick Lencioni. This is a great model and really simple, and I've used it in the past, and it's changed the way we've done business. It's really broken down the silos and everyone just working together. So this model starts with trust. So to break down trust, you look at the behaviours that kind of manifest around why people don't trust each other, and you get them out on the table. And like I said before, it's really essential if people are holding on to stuff that's happened 2 years ago. I was in a workshop not long ago, and halfway through it, this guy got up and he's like, "I'm sorry, but I just have to get this off my chest." And this happened ages ago, but he felt that was obviously something that he was holding on for a long, long time. And he was obviously able to move forward from that as well. So yeah, trust is all about being vulnerable with each other, asking someone for some help, saying, I'm not great in this area, how can you help me? And then once you have that trust, it's all about being comfortable to challenge each other. So, the next step is around positive conflict. So, if you've got employees in a room discussing a business decision, you really want them all to be able to have an input and either agree or disagree on what's happening. Because when they leave that room, they all need to be committed. So once they have the buy-in, the next step is around commitment. Generally, employees that have had a chance to say what they're thinking, either if they agree or disagree, they're more likely to be committed stepping out of that meeting room, regardless of if that decision went their way or not. From that, the next step from that is holding each other accountable. So, and this is about peer-to-peer accountability, not manager to employees. So this stage is really important when it comes to high-performing teams, that you can turn around because you've built that trust and say, hey, Sally, you said that you were going to do X, Y, and Z. It hasn't been done. This actually impacts my job. Can you let me know when that's going to happen? So if you've done all those 4 steps, then the last one's pretty easy. Everyone is, working towards results. they're holding each other accountable, they're challenging each other, and they're all working to the same, I guess, scorecard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's probably the model. I'll take them through a journey of that, and I use different tools along the way. Also coming from a HR point of view, all the HR frameworks and processes that kind of help embed those behaviours that they're learning, is really essential as well. Like performance management, onboarding, employee engagement, all that stuff as well. I ensure that the company or the team are really focused on those things.
Absolutely. And I love that approach. And I love the approach is like making sure that you start from where you are, that you know where you're starting from, so you can uncover those things that you've talked about, like what have they been through before, what's the history, if they tried something like this previously, and what was the outcome. Because a lot of times we forget to consider those things, and we just start on the journey, and then we wonder why it's not working. And it's because we've not uncovered maybe the baggage or the history that's gone before. So
and I think another thing is also them being ready to change. A lot of people, change is quite hard, and if they don't want to come on that journey, it's going to be quite evident quite quickly when the team do start to change their behaviours and want to progress and want to become a high performing team. That person's going to really feel like this isn't the right role for me. This isn't the right job. Maybe I should leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And how important is, you talked about people feeling that they can, challenge decisions, that they've got that commitment and that trust. How important is the psychological safety, that people feel safe to do that without any repercussion?
And that's one thing that we talk about a lot when we talk about trust, that anything that happens in that room or anything that this team is going through, conversations that are being said, stuff that's being brought up, that it's very confidential, and they've got to be able to trust each other. Otherwise, there's no point in moving forward, in becoming a high performing team if you can't be open with stuff that, around their weaknesses, around, could be even stuff that's going on at home, but they've got to ensure that area is a safe zone and they feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a big role for leaders, and I know everyone can lead, but leaders to play in building that environment where people do feel safe and do feel the trust of each other, and holding, like you said, holding people accountable and calling out. So it's about, I think it's a lot of reinforcing behaviours as well, so the behaviours we want to see as opposed to the ones we don't want to see. It's very important. So what's one of the, you've mentioned barriers about people having, baggage, and it could be something that happened 2 years ago, but they really want to get out. What are some of the other big barriers to getting that high performing culture?
Like I said, people not wanting to change is a massive one. In companies that I work with before, I've seen that, and this is, they either come to the realization that I don't want to be on this journey. I'm not comfortable being this open with my they could have some trust issues that stem from when they were a child or whatnot. So it's them saying, I don't want to be a part of this, or it's the manager going, look, this is where we're heading. If you can't come on board, then maybe, it's another, should be in another team or another organisation, because this is where we want to go. So, I would say mainly around that, people not wanting to change.
Yeah. And if someone has that, let's say, I always talk about people generally don't resist change if it's done with them. They resist it when it's done to them. And it's a general statement, but if someone is a little bit resistant to, maybe opening up, being prepared to challenge something, they've got that trust issue that you've mentioned, how can you try and bring them along before it's the, well, okay, this isn't for you conversation?
So I generally, if I'm working with a team, will sit down, have half a day where I meet with each team member, and I go through basically what the journey will look like, what it will feel like. Some of the things that might come up and might be said. I let them know, what we'll be working towards over the next 6 months, and I'm very clear with that, so that they know what's coming up, and then it's their decision then. Generally, 99% of people are on board with this, and they love it once they get into it, because it brings them closer to their teammates, and they just feel a sense of belonging. But people that don't, then they know straight up that this isn't for them. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that I was talking about recently the power of why. About why we're doing this. We often talk about what it is and how we're going to do it, but it's really that purpose, isn't it? The why. That's now I understand why we're doing it.
Yeah, that's really important as well, like connecting people to their own emotional purpose of why they want to be on board, and then why the company is doing it as well. So yeah, it's really important.
Brilliant. Now you've sort of mentioned some things, but what are the sort of tools that you use? You've talked about the steps. What are the tools you use along the way?
Yeah, so Patrick Lencioni, 5 Behaviours of a Cohesive Team. That is a high-performing team model that I use and I'm accredited in. Also, we use DISC to really help, I guess, that from the start, where we talk about trust and getting people to understand their different personality styles, and their own personality styles, why people react or behave in that way. So that's a really good tool to create empathy within the team straight up. I also look at using 360 feedback tools along the way to help and coach that the individuals within the team. And at the moment, I'm looking at a new tool around emotional intelligence, and it just gives you an awareness of how emotionally intelligent you are, and then I coach them through that as well.
Absolutely, really good stuff. What was the question I was going to ask then? So I'd like your opinion, because there's lots of those sort of personality sort of mapping tools around. We've got Myers-Briggs, we've got DISC. How, I suppose I'm trying to find out the way to couch this question. I mean, obviously people's reactions to things change. I mean, I can go to work really positive today, and then tomorrow, because something that's happened, at home or whatever in my personal life, will shift the way I react and respond to things. So how sound are these personality sort of things that I say, I will operate with you because you are this type of personality, but doesn't circumstance have an influence on that?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, when you do these tests, a lot of the things they say is that everyone is a portion of every personality. So it's just basically your preference and how and where your preference lies more heavily in. And yet I've seen people's personality styles change throughout the years, and things that could change that are big life moments. So, women when they have children, or if you're moving countries like I did, big life experiences could change how you respond to some of those questions. Even starting my own business, I went from being a high I to moving towards a D, because I have to be. So yeah, it really depends on your situation at the time. Yeah.
So should that profile mapping be something that we repeat on a regular basis?
I wouldn't repeat it too often. Probably once every 2 years, but I wouldn't advise doing it on a regular basis.
Okay, maybe every 2 years, just to cope for those major changes, if you like. Cool. So what are some of the other good sources of information around the high performing teams? You've mentioned the DISC and the high performing team. Patrick, what was the second name again?
Lencioni,
yeah. So I'll put some links into the comments when we put this up.
Yeah. So the sources that I've used, and I think is really great throughout my career, have been obviously Patrick Lencioni does a lot on team performance, but he also has a wide range of books around leadership, meetings. So yeah, definitely have a look at his stuff. I think he's great. Around motivation and engagement, Daniel Pink, his stuff's great as well. Brene Brown is also one of those. Yeah, she's great, isn't she? She talks a lot about vulnerability and leadership, and what's really great, I just found out, is that she's starting a new podcast which launches in March this year. So I'm definitely going to listen to some of that.
Yeah.
And Daniel Goleman, he does a lot of stuff around emotional intelligence and leadership. So they're the ones that I kind of, throughout my career, have always gone back to because they're great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love all of those, Daniel Pink and Goleman, and I want to be Brené Brown when I grow up.
Yeah, she's great.
I want to come up with those one-liners that she comes up and you go, oh, I wish I'd thought of that. Yeah, she's great. Absolutely. So I'll look those up and I'll put some links in so people can go and find more information. And that's great. They're great sources. So in addition to them, where can people find out more about Katie Jones and CultureFit HR?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn at Katie Jones. I've also got CultureFit HR LinkedIn page, but I have a website which is www.culturefithr.com.au. If you click on that, there is a culture fitness test that I've created, and you can jump on and see how fit your culture is, and you can get. I can provide you with a 90-day action plan to help you improve your culture. So yeah, jump on that.
Awesome. That's awesome. I'll definitely put a link to that so people can jump in. I love when we can get some sort of action taking place and people go, I can now see where I am or where I'm or not, or where my gaps are. So that's absolutely awesome. Katie, it's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I think there's so much value in that little package that we've just done that people can actually, not just listen to this, but actually go away and make some actions as well. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me on Karen's Conversations.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie.